Hey, you, realize that you're in default mode. According to Dan Gilbert of Harvard, who wrote Stumbling into Happiness, 46.9% of the time, half your day, you're in autopilot mode. You got two modes in which your brain operates, the default mode and the direct mode. Default, I call autopilot. It's when your thoughts drift, when you go through your day without even thinking, and you just wander. The direct mode is when you're present, when you're in the moment, when you control the thoughts you think about. In this video, we're going to do a mindset reset. Stay tuned. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. There are two modes in your brain. Autopilot, the things that you default to, and then there's the ability to deliberately choose what you're going to think about. When you start to realize and embrace the fact that being a deliberate thinker is a skill, it's one that you need to master and one that you should and need to practice. Mindset reset is not an event, it's a practice. The limiting beliefs that you already have, they're encoded in your brain, they're set. So it's a process that you need to repeat. The mindset reset, you know you want to make changes, and then you immediately start catastrophizing, you start worrying. There's all kinds of reasons why it might not happen. It's common that somebody in your past either trained you to think this way, or you've had so many bad things happen that you've trained yourself to assume and predict that bad things are always going to happen to you. There will be bad things that are going to happen. It's a fact of life. But if you are constantly reminding your mind to default that thinking bad things will happen, you're thinking you're out of shape, thinking you're a loser, or thinking that things aren't going to turn out for you. That becomes your default mode of thinking. The default mode of thinking. Scientists call it the default mode network. It's a series of neurons in your brain taking care of certain things. The reason we have a default network is because we need it. There's so many things that we do in our day that shouldn't require thinking. The problem is thinking patterns become part of your default mode. Part of your mode is to say, I'm a loser, I'm not likable, I'm not lovable. It becomes part of your default mode network. Super important to realize that just like I couldn't go from being a right-hander and teach myself how to be a left-hander, it's like a mindset. So the exact same process to go from somebody who defaults thinking negative garbage to becoming somebody who thinks directly. It's a process. Just like learning from going right hand to left hand to teaching yourself to write with your left hand, it's going to be a process, not an event. It's going to require you to switch out of the mode and grab the pen with your right hand automatically. You need to stop, direct your thoughts, and deliberately grab the pen with your left hand. In the beginning, your handwriting is going to blow. You're never going to be able to read it. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel right. It's going to feel clunky. So the same thing from directing your thoughts from default mode to directing your thoughts to things that are positive, that are optimistic, things that are full of possibility. This is the work of changing the patterns in your mind. There's no other way to do it. Just like you could teach yourself defaulting from being a righty to a lefty to being direct and changing your mind from default, autopilot, into a direct way of thinking. Autopilot's great when it's helpful. It's horrendous for you when it's working against you. The number one thing that's going to stop you is the way you think. If you can change the way you think, you will change your life. That's a promise. I believe the way you think is a choice. I think that you're either going to repeat thinking patterns that you've always had this year, or you can evolve them. If you change the way you think, you will change your life. We are working on becoming more deliberate thinkers. Think this, not that. What is your limiting beliefs? What is the thing you think about yourself? Maybe the things your parents, your mother, your father taught you about yourself. Maybe it was a horrible breakup and that person made you feel less than. Maybe you had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. What is your limiting belief? Now that you've identified your limiting belief, we got to look at what it's going to cost you to repeat it. I'm not good enough. My mental health is holding me back. I can't run a successful business. I'm lazy. I can't do anything. I'm not healthy enough. I don't have enough money. Money's the issue. I'm afraid to fail. What are those limiting beliefs? Oh, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of success. Those are excellent ones. The first step to moving from default to being deliberate is to see it. Because once we see it, whoa, those are my default modes. I want to get rid of it. That's changing your mind. The best way to do this is to ask yourself simple questions. What is this limiting belief in my case? And what does it cost me in my past? What is it costing me in this present moment to think I'm not a good person? And here's the kicker. If I don't evolve and I don't deliver, what's it going to cost me in the future to continue to think that I'm not a good person? You cannot get rid of the default until you actually spot it. But now that you've seen it, realize that for the rest of your life, you have a job. And your job is to make sure that when that default network kicks back up and you start to murmur, I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, that's the moment where you have to do your mindset reset. This is not the voice of God. This is some programming that's set on default that I don't have to live my life. And I don't have to have a future. And I don't have to not constantly say things negative to myself. I don't have to. That's miraculous. Most miraculous thing I've ever heard. The point is, if you don't get deliberate, you'll be stuck with the default mode. You need to reprogram the negative way of thinking so the default doesn't become loving. You got to catch the negative default and turn it to something deliberate. So instead of thinking, no one likes me, maybe something like instead think, the right people love me. That's pretty powerful. If you're somebody that says I'm too old, you say I have plenty of time. You could say, I have so much experience, I'm definitely going to succeed. If you say I'm too young, say anything you want. Maybe from, I have plenty of time to learn for what I need to learn. Being young is an advantage. I'm glad I know this now. I'm learning. The point is, if your default kicks in, don't think that. Catch it. When you do, turn it to something positive. Think positive. See ya.